Good evening. Tonight I'd like to discuss my final project for CSCI E7. For my project, I was assisting a friend by analyzing a rather large phone bill for her organization. She was given the phone bill in order to determine whether eliminating company cell phones would save the company significant money without causing them significant problems for their staff. The problem was that the phone bill was some 700,000 lines long, so she couldn't use her favorite tool, Microsoft Excel, to analyze the information. Pandas made it rather easy, and with the help of a few references like Python for data analysis, I was able to do so in Pandas. One of the things that became readily apparent with this project was that real life data files are messy. There's a lot of missing information, and it's not usually what you expected to get like we saw in class. You'll notice that in my read CSV command, I had to change the delimiter to a pipe, and I found that the encoding of the data file wasn't the UTF-8 we were used to in class, but Latin 1, so I had to change that as well. I also had to do certain things like hashing names in the data files to as you can see here, to eliminate personal information. And I also changed some values to mask out identifying site names within the data file. Using pandas, I could look, for example, at the various charges, the voice charges for the two largest sites, and there's a cellular charge number from the file. With pandas, I could draw very nice plots, as you can see, and even format the numbers in dollar formats. Using that, I could also look at the charges by individual carriers. You can see the various wireless carriers like Verizon, AT&T Mobile, and Sprint, and compare their numbers. I could also find out what fraction of the total phone bill, which is given here, was given by the the cellular charges. 23% of the total charges on the phone bill were cellular charges. Using pandas, I could create pivot tables. Here are the major service types that appeared on the bill with the various subtypes that were part of them. As you can see, data transfer was the largest named part of the cellular bill, but the unnamed, unclassified portions of each of these charges were by far the largest part. Using the pivot table again, I could turn that into a data frame in itself and use my tools against it. Here I was able to look at the major subtypes within the cellular charges and found that, as we saw in the table, data transfer was much larger than regular cellular charges, excluding the unclassified charges. You could also see in this information that you could compare the various cost centers and their phone call charges. This particular cost center, 0100, was interesting because it was the administrative group's cost center. The cost centers were part of a different value within the field, but I was able to get them because they were the first four digits of that other general ledger account number. So I created a synthetic column within the table, and this presents the data. I could also look at the various breakdowns in the charges per cost center, and you can see here the administrative cellular cost compared to the other cost centers cost, and you can see that even for that one cost center, the voice charges outweighed the cellular charges. We could also go so far as to look at the histogram of charges by phone number. Here you can see that there was a large spike at this number, and you could find that number by looking at the mode, $17. And you can see that there were 25,000 phones that had entries that had that $17 charge. That's quite a few. I could remove that and get more interesting histogram information showing the more uniform distribution of charges. Um, from there, I could also look at individual phone numbers and see what cost center they were charged to. Again, here's the administrative cost center and the various phone numbers that were charged underneath it. Using that information, I could find which cost center, what the maximum phone charge per phone for each cost center was. And you can see that by far the largest phone bill for one phone number was in the administrative cost center, and I could identify that phone number here. I'm not going to leave it on the screen. And I could perform statistics on that phone numbers by cost center in the administrative group and see that the standard deviation was extremely large relative to the mean, which told me that this max and maybe one or two others caused the mean to go up greatly. Most of the charges were very small, but this one charge outweighed them all. I could also look at which phone numbers appeared on the bill the most times, and obviously this phone number appeared on the bill many more times. So using pandas, I could determine the fraction of charges on the phone bill that belonged in cellular, whether that cost was really an appreciable amount of the phone bill. It turned out cellular charges were 23% of the overall phone bill. But most of the charges were for groups other than the administrative IT group. So cutting phone costs by dropping cellular phone service may not be possible because other groups may need it for on-call duties other than IT. However, there are some very large data charges that skew the information for all those cost centers. Thank you.